And we're back with Lord of the Rings of Power. This time Season 1, Episode 3. And yeah, this is where we go into the reaction portion of the rest of this season, because yes, I might have seen the first 2 episodes in a special screening in theatres, but that's only it, the first 2 episodes, and this is episode 3, so from now on it is all going to be new content to me that I have not seen. So yeah. So if the reviews at the end of the episode prove to not be as in detail, that's because I've not had time to think about it. So yeah, apologies if the review of this episode and all the episodes come in are not as good as the first 2, so yeah. Well, yeah, first, the second episode especially, well, starting off, I have got my Ring of Power here with me, as well as my Viggo Mortensen autograph. And the second episode really left us off with a bunch of cliffhangers for all four of the storylines. The Galadriel and Halbrand one, they have been found adrift at sea, or if they've drifted to land, I don't know, but they've been found by a mysterious person. We don't know who it is, never saw his face. The Arondir story is the people of the town are migrating to the Elven Watchtower, and Arondir has been grabbed by a bunch of orcs and taken God knows where. The Elrond story ended with Durin and his dad opening a box and showing something that we had not seen. Showing like a glow of something, whether it be the Arkenstone, don't think so, or Mithril, possibly. But yeah, the dwarves are keeping secrets. The elves and dwarves are keeping secrets from each other. And the Nori storyline... yeah, the Nori storyline is... where did that leave off? Basically, we don't know. We don't know where that's going to go. But the Half-Foots are going to be migrating soon, so it'll be interesting to see if they can actually bring the Stranger along. That's what I'm going to call him, the Stranger. See if they can bring the Stranger along with them during that without revealing him. I don't know how that's going to work out, but yeah, that's how it's going to be. So let's just not waste any more time and get into Season 1, Episode 3 of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, starting right now. Oh my god. This was so good. This was so good. I've been hearing people say that this series isn't like incredibly spectacular. I thought it was. Wow. I think this show is good so far. Oh my god, this was amazing. This was amazing. Okay, first, let's start off. Whose storyline do we go with? You know what? No Elrond, no Durin, none of that storyline. So, we really only had 3 storylines so far. But, god, did we get introduced to a few characters that we are familiar with. You know what? We'll start with the Nori storyline because it was the least juicy, although still pretty juicy and a good progression. Apparently, it's bloody hell. The Half-Foots, when they migrate, whoever falls behind is left behind. Real pirates code. So if you get left behind, they don't wait for you. They don't come back for you. You're just left out in the wilderness to survive. And most often, I'm guessing they don't. And it's clear that they've all lost people because of this thing. Like that Sadok, I believe his last name is Burrows. And even when he was naming out people who had not survived or had been left behind, he named someone with the last name Burrows, Daphne Burrows, I think he said. So, daughter, sister, wife, mother, whatever, a member of his family, and even he agreed, and even he left them behind. So it's a very harsh life. Yeah, she was looking in the book and she found the page of the constellation that she needed to help him. And he just, stranger just wanders into camp, finds it, but then accidentally burns it, and then he reveals himself by accident to everyone. And he exposes it, though through no fault of his own, he's just confused. And the dad, well, the family, the Brandyfoot family was worried that they'd get left behind because of his leg. And they very nearly did, if not for the stranger coming in to help them. So he helps them with the migration and they help him with the constellation stuff to find out who he is and where he comes from. Yeah, very nice. A lot of progression on that story, I've got to say. And second storyline, I'd go with the Aronde stuff. It wasn't necessarily juicy and story orientated, but it was damn awesome. Hundreds of orcs, well, dozens of orcs, not hundreds, but there was a lot of orcs, and they have been taking both human and elves alike. I imagine the people of Horden and whatever villages they've pillaged, as well as the people of the Watchtower, the Elven Watch. They've even taken them. The Watch Warden, his friend in the first episode, Aronde's friend, that is. And they were both killed in this episode. They were both killed. Jeez. So, yeah. They were being forced to dig these trenches. The people that they've captured are being forced to dig these trenches. And it's obviously smart taking a few elves, because elves have incredible endurance, so you should find yourself some dwarves as well while you're at it. That's a little bit of advice for those orcs. Find yourself some dwarves as well. You need to invoke the right of seeking Tarag in that trench. So yeah, they're being forced to dig in these trenches so that they can move around faster. Obviously they can't travel in sunlight, so they're travelling in these trenches or underground. And that's how they travel. They've literally got to dig their path if they want to move forward or move anywhere. And they all follow someone called the highest in their ranks is someone called Adar. Maybe it's Sauron, maybe it's not. Maybe he's just like a chief orc, or maybe he's actually Sauron because we didn't actually see him. Although he did look a lot more humanoid and a lot more human looking than most of the orcs. There was still something wrong with him, I could still tell that. But he looked a lot more normal than regular orcs, so is he Sauron? They said that, like, why would the orcs refer to someone by an elf name? And they said Sauron has been referred to by many names, maybe this was it. So, is that Sauron? Interesting. We got nothing from Bronwyn or Theo in this episode with that Morgul blade going to the Watchtower. I imagine, I said, I wonder if the elves are... I said last episode, I wonder if the elves are going to be even there, and it looks like they weren't. It looks like they're not going to be, because they were all here, and now they've all been killed. Well, most of them anyway. I don't know if Aronde is the only one left. Possibly. But, yeah, they hatched a plan to try and escape. Very well thought out plan, I'll have to admit, but even then... Oh, offering the water to them and getting them to expose their necks before slicing them. Brutal. Brutal. And then forcing... saying that they needed to cut down the tree. Obviously, we know elves have significant love for nature. So cutting down that tree must have been very difficult, but it was a sacrifice Aronde had to make to determine where they were. Because the Watch Warden said, at the first chance you can, look above the trench and find where they are. And find out the best way to escape, and Aronde had to cut down that tree to find it. But even then, meant nothing. Meant nothing in the end because they didn't escape. Awesome fight scene as well, with Arundir, Watch Warden, the elves, and some of the orcs. But then that warg got released and started mauling elves to death. Like, on Amazon Prime, it shows like what every episode is rated. I saw that this one was rated higher than the other ones. Like, if you're in the UK, you recognise that the first 2 episodes were rated 12. This episode was rated 15, which is more for more mature audiences, and I can understand why. That warg was, it was eating them alive. Nasty stuff. For a second, it looks like the Watch Warden was going to escape, and then as soon as Arundir got over the trench, there's the Watch Warden with arrows in him, dead. Arundir gets brought back down to the trenches and he's given an audience with Adar. That was brutal, but awesome. I'm going to have so much fun watching reactions to this episode later. The most juicy stuff from this episode came from Galadriel's storyline. We went to NUMENOR. Went to fucking NUMENOR. Aragorn is the descendant of this place. Isildur and Elendil are here now. We saw Isildur and Elendil. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Obviously, Isildur was in the flashback in The Lord of the Rings. He's the one who cut the ring from Sauron's hand, but only after his dad died. Oh, if this show goes all the way to that battle, we're going to see Elendil die. And we're going to see Isildur be the one to pick up the ring. But where does that leave the daughter? I can't remember her name, I'm sorry. But where does that leave her? But anyway, I didn't know Elendil had a daughter. I didn't know Isildur had a sister. And it sounds like they have another brother as well, Inarion. I know that name Inarion, but I can't remember where. But yeah, we went to NUMENOR, Paradise Island. It looks amazing. It makes Minas Tirith, the City of Kings, looks like shit compared to it. But fair enough, because NUMENOR is supposed to be a paradise island that no longer exists in the timeline of Lord of the Rings. Because I know NUMENOR doesn't survive until the timeline of Lord of the Rings. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I love that it's a star-shaped island as well. And it's still very far from Middle-earth. They're still a long way off. I thought it would just be off the coastline of Middle-earth, but it's not. It's a long way. It's like a halfway point between Valinor and Middle-earth. So, yeah, Galadriel is still away from home. And to meet Elendil and Isildur as well, so interesting. And definitely strikes me as a type of relationship where Elendil's lived at sea his whole life, he's been a captain his whole life, and he's trying to put that onto his son, who doesn't seem to want that. Very, very interested in seeing how Isildur and Elendil go through this story, because we know they're going to eventually get to Middle-earth. Maybe they go with Galadriel, maybe they don't. Maybe they come around later on. And they've got to meet up with Elrond, because Elrond knows Isildur in Lord of the Rings. When they arrive, Halbrand and Galadriel are given an audience with the Queen Regent of NUMENOR. And they don't get a very warm welcome. It seems their interpretations of the past differ from one another. Galadriel seems to think the elves gave NUMENOR to them. The people of NUMENOR seem to think that they paid for it with blood. So whether that past gets cleared up, we don't know. Interesting. And Halbrand handled the situation with the Queen Regent a lot better than Galadriel did. And I suppose he intends to stay here, but then not even a day goes past, he's already stealing stuff and he gets himself into trouble. And he goes on a bit of a mad streak. When he full on destroys those people in that alleyway. It's like something takes over him. He was like saying, please don't do this, and then he gets hit, and then he lifts his head up again and he's a fucking madman. So, wonder what's going on there? No idea. But it's interesting. It's all interesting. Meanwhile, Galadriel and Elendil are in the House of Law. I imagine it's library or something. And they finally discover what the mark means. The mark of Sauron. And it's basically a simple drawing of a location on the map, of the Southlands on the map. Of, like, the curve is the mountain range around what is going to be Mordor. It's basically the mountain range around Mordor and around Gondor, because I know the Southlands is basically what Gondor and Mordor is eventually going to be. I think it's Rohan as well, I think so. But eventually that land is going to be split between the men and Mordor. I'm glad that we didn't have to wait so long to find out what that mark means. But whilst there, Galadriel also finds out something else. She finds out about the symbol that Halbrand is wearing around his neck, and learns that he is like a descendant of a very noble house. A very prominent house. Whether he takes pride in that or not is still to be seen. Well, actually no, he doesn't. He doesn't take pride in it, but he still wears it, because apparently his family swore allegiance to Morgoth. Interesting. But she seems to believe that he's some sort of saviour, like an Aragorn type character, a king hidden in the common people. A diamond in the rough, if you would. And she seems to think he's going to be he's going to be an important piece in taking down Sauron. I mean, obviously we know Sauron isn't going to last. Obviously we know Sauron is going to last much longer than that. But it's interesting. It's going to be very intriguing to see what part Halbrand plays in that. Along with the introduction of Elendil, Isildur going to Numenor. This episode, so juicy, and if we're going into ranking, I do not even have to bother with trying any of this. This goes straight to the top. So episode 1, episode 2 and episode 3, every episode has just gotten better so far, and I love it. It was so good. Ooh, yes! But that is all we've got for this week, this episode of Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power. Until next time, we are over and out. Bye!